I am John Cetinich, born and raised in Blair, Ohio. I am 98 years old, and this coming January 6th, I will be 99.
And my name is Julie Fink, a podcast producer from Cleveland, Ohio, and I am on a mission to record the stories of senior veterans to help preserve their family memories and legacies. The recording you are about to hear took place on November 10th, 2023 at Tapestry Senior Living in Wickliffe, Ohio. This is John Cetinich, a World War II veteran and a wonderful gentleman who was kind enough to share with me his triumphs and tribulations during the war. This is his story.
As far as a family life, I had very little. I left home when I was 15 years old. When I came home, then I was drafted. I was drafted to go to the service, and I did. Didn't object. Flew in a B-17 bomber, and I was a radio operator. I liked my job. I'd done it well. I think I'd done it well. So many things to talk about. As an example, when we were training to fly, one day we were asked to fly in a storm. We'd go out over the Atlantic Ocean and fly in a storm to get the experience and all that. And it wasn't pleasant. You're in the clouds, and you come out of the clouds. You're on top of the clouds. You don't know whether the plane that's supposed to be with you is next to you or on top of you. But we were flying out there for a long time, and it was time to head for home. Now, neither one of the pilots know where home was. So the pilot of the first plane says, I'll ask my radio operator, get me a QDM. QDM in Morse code is give me a heading to fly for home. So he got the heading, and we flew that course, that heading. They were flying, time's going by, and they're talking to each other, lightning is striking. And one of them says to the other, he says, we should be seeing land pretty soon. That's the way the other one verified, he says, yeah, we should. And we're flying, and then the pilot tells the other pilot, he says, I'm flying the course that my radio operator told me to fly, and that's what that. And I called up my pilot. I said, that's not what I copied. He said, what did you copy, John? So I gave him what I was copied. So they conversed with each other. So the other pilot says, well, I'll get another heading. So the radio operator got another heading. We were flying 180 degrees in the wrong direction. Instead of headed from home, we were going out further in the Atlantic Ocean. And if I didn't jot down on a piece of paper the course that we were supposed to fly, we would have been fish bait today. And we didn't know it at the time, but we were flying over the Bermuda Triangle. Then I got in the service and I was a radio operator. I was stationed in Italy. That was our base in Italy. Before we go on our flights, the officers went to be briefed, and I went to be briefed. All the other men, they just went to the plane. And when I go to they'll tell me what frequency we're going to be broadcasting on. And my job is to get back to the plane and tune the transmitter to that frequency. And the Tuskegee Airmen were my escort. And you know about the Tuskegee Airmen.
By June of 1944, the 99th had joined 3 other all-black fighter squadrons. Together, they comprised the 332nd Fighter Group, known to history as the Tuskegee Airmen.
And on my final mission, I flew 27 missions. We got to the target, dropped our bombs over Germany. And as we were bombing, they were shooting at us naturally. And on the last mission, our engines got shut out. Instead of making a U-turn and go back to Italy, the pilot was instructed to head for Russia or close to Russia or to Poland and and the navigator has ahead of time where the different fields where we could land. Now, we're only flying on 2 engines. We had 2 engines shot out over target. No enemy plane did ground fire. Now, with 2 engines, no way you can fly over top of the Alps. So, we're flying, and a pilot tells the navigator, get me a heading to fly to one of the fields. And as he told him that, then he changed his mind. He said, forget about it. He says, I know where there's a commercial airport in Vienna. He said, that's what we're going to head for. We got 2 engines. So that was okay. That was fine. We're probably flying maybe at 10,000 or 8,000. Then one of the waist gunners called up the pilot, and the pilot's name was Phil. And he says, Phil. And then Phil answers, he says, what? He says, I think I see oil over on the left wing. Pilot checked it out. He said, oh yeah, the other engine is right now spitting oil. We better feather it. So they feathered the other engine. Now we're flying on 1 engine. B-17 bomber on 1 engine. And fully loaded with the ammunition. We dropped the bomb and the machine guns. No way it was going to fly, but it flew. As we were approaching the airport, they were shooting at us from the ground. Small fire, not heavy stuff, small fire. We could see pop guns here and there. So the pilot avoided the airport. How he avoided it, I don't know. With 1 engine. So he went beyond the airport, to the side of the airport, and as we were flying, we were close to the ground. We were probably about 100 feet off the ground. The pilot said, oh, there's a field up ahead. He said, we're going to put her down in that field. And he told all of us to prepare for a crash landing. And as we was approaching the field, it reminded me of Amish country. House was on to one side, the bar on the other side. I was watching. I was looking out the window watching. I saw the ground flying by, And so the pilot put her down. I said, we touched down. And as we were rolling along, not very long, but I could see the haystack, I could see the ground, and all of a sudden the plane took a sudden turn to the right, like a 45 degree. It went over the road that was running parallel to the field. It bounced over the 2 culverts, one on one side, the other side, went in between the house and the barn, and behind all the houses there were trees, big, tall trees. We knocked down a telephone pole. The left wing went over top of a haystack. And behind the house, no trees, elevated ground. The plane went up a hill. Up on top of the hill, there was a level piece of land, and it stopped. About 10 feet, 15 feet from going into the forest. How did that plane know to go between that house and barn? Where there were no trees on the ground. The ground was completely clear. And I always point to heaven. When we got out of the plane, some of them kissed the ground, I didn't. And we looked around, not a soul astern, nobody. Then a barn door opened up. The haystack started to move. And the kids, the children, were coming out of the barn and out of the haystack, and they were coming up the hill. When I say up the hill, they didn't come walking up, they went on all fours. Hands and feet and coming up the hill, and they were giggling and laughing. And we were shouting down to them, Amerikanskie samolotniki, which means American airmen. And they shouted back down to the village. And when they shouted that, then all the doors opened up. It was all women, elderly women, young women, and some of the men were old men. They all came up to the plane. And we all had parachutes. We took the parachutes, we gave them to the ladies, and one of them opened up one of the parachutes they saw was silk. Oh my God, were they happy. And the elderly men, they walked around and looked at the guns. Look how big these guns are, you know. And a pilot told one of the operator of the turret, he said, get the turret and point to the trees and show some how much power we got. And he did. Chopped up the top of the tree. Yeah, but anyhow, we had fun. In the meantime, the pilot tells me, he says, now that we're on the ground, call base and let base know that we landed safely. So I got the latitude and longitude from the navigator, and I got it on my keyboard, did, no answer. I repeated it several times, no answer. I hear everybody else talking, but I couldn't get through. And I come out to tell the pilot, I said, Phil, I couldn't get through. He said, well, don't worry about it. He says, as we were leaving the bomb run, he said, I notified the other pilot, the lead pilot, that we were going to go see Russia. He didn't say Russia, we were going to see Joe, referring to Joe Town. He said, don't worry about it, they know where we're at. So it dawned on me, if I take that trailing antenna, put it up in a tree, I'll get to base. And I told one of the gunners, take the trailing antenna, climb the tree, which he did. I got back on the keyboard, did, boom, headquarters. So the Russians came and got us in trucks and armed. I guess they're armed because they thought they didn't know who landed, and they saw that we were Americans, and we all shook hands. And Phil, who's a Polish, he talked to him. Tarbe, who's Russian, he talked to him. We had a good time. And then they told us, well, get all your gear together, we're going to take you into camp or someplace. So they did. They put us up in the best hotel in Kiev, the finest hotel. It was so good, you could compare it to our worst. But anyhow, we had it good. We stayed there about 5 days or 7 days. If you want to get your clothes done, you should give it to the laundry. They took it, they laundered it, they dry cleaned it. If you want to get a shave, a haircut, whatever you want, everything was free. We were on vacation. And every night we'd go down to the ballroom. They had dancing. So there were civilians who come in, and we'd mingle with the population. And we weren't the only crews. I'd say half the residents in the hotel were army people. And it was a shelter for not only for me and the others. And we stayed there for about, I'd say 5 to 7 days. And then the troops came and told us, we're going to take you to camp, get your gear together, which we did. And we're chugging along the railroad track. We had 2 guards. They went with us, went in a boxcar. And the 2 soldiers, they had pistols, and they were shooting at some of the cows that they see out in the field. They never hit one cow. But anyhow, then we got to the camp. They came and got us in a truck, and they put us in a truck, and they took us into this camp. And as we were getting out of the truck into the camp, everybody was speaking American. I turned around and I said, is this an Army airfield? He said, oh, yeah. I said, you bomb from this field? He said, oh, no. Our job is to rescue planes that get shot down. So we looked I looked around. The airfield's completely filled with planes that were shot down. B-44, B-24, the fighter planes, B-70, cargo ship, all the planes that flew were it was a graveyard. But what they would do, they salvage all the parts they could salvage, and they put a plane together. And that town was called Bratislava. I always thought it was Poland, but I found after I came home it was Russia. So anyhow, we spent the rest of my days there. Everybody had something to do. Yeah. Even the pilots, the officers, they had some kind of job to do to keep yourself busy. And we'd watch all the planes that were repaired. They'd get up in the sky, especially the fighter plane. They'd do loops and spins and come down and dive. And we lived in barracks. They'd come over top of the barracks, and beyond the barracks there were 2 huge smokestacks. I don't know what kind of a building that was, but they were high. They were at least 100 or 150 or 200 feet high. And those pilots would go right through those hay, and do a loop. So anyhow, we watched that. That was fun. Then my pilot got a notice to take up a B-17 and test fly it. So I was told to go because I had to check out the equipment. We flew it around. We went here and there, zigzagged here and there. And I checked out my computer, my radio, see if I had contact. And then when it came time to come in and land, he was coming down the airport. He was going to land. And he tells us, let's show them what a buzz job is. And all the guys that lived there, they'd always come out when there was a D-41 or P-38 that buzzed the barracks. They'd come out on the rooftop and to take cameras. Well, we came over that rooftop, nobody was on it. They jumped. And he thought he'd get bawled out after we landed. Then he'd say nothing to him. They congratulated him how he could fly. So that's the plane I came home in. We got orders to go home, and we took that B-17 and 10 other crewmen from another B-17 or B-24, I don't know which one. There were 20 of us in the plane. It was approaching Italy, was going to land in Milan, Italy. And that was the 15th Air Force Air Base. And as we're coming in for a landing, and I got my earphones on, I didn't take them off, I didn't know why I didn't take it off. And I heard the tower operator shout, pull it up, pull it up, pull it up. And all of a sudden our plane started to shake. All four of the engines started to shake. I look out of the wing, there's a Piper Cub underneath trying to take off. After all of that, we're coming home for a safe landing.
John concluded his epic B-17 crew adventures nearly landing on top of a Piper Cub aircraft in Milan. But thankfully, they did end up safely touching down. Afterwards, we sat together and chatted for a little bit. I had a few questions for him, starting with that crash landing. How did he and his crew keep it together?
We were all confident. I don't know why we were all confident. Nobody was worried.
Really?
Yeah,
That's incredible.
I always tell it that we had a good pilot, a very good pilot.
You trusted your pilot skills.
And as only God would have it, his name was Lieutenant Good.
Oh. I also wanted to know, what were the driving forces behind his successes during the war, when so many people lost their lives during World War II, including ground casualties, but especially in the air? And John educated me on a few important variables that I was not aware of, and I'll give it to you in 2 words. Tail gunners.
I was glad I didn't go over early, like the ones that went over early.
Yeah.
I didn't go to England, I went to Italy.
Right.
Now, a lot of the ones that went over to England, I've heard, and I guess it's true, there was about 40% of the planes went out, came back. 40%. So you take 100 out, only 40 going to come back. That continued until they found out they were being shot down. The fighter planes would come and attack the bomber from the rear. They attacked them from the rear because there was no rear gunner. There was no tail gunner. And that's why we lost all those planes at the beginning of the war. And when they found that out, then they put the tail gunners in. And after that, the Germans did not attack from the rear no more. And the Memphis Belle, they've got their 25 missions. I heard, but I don't know how true it is, at one time in England, the men that was flying the B-17s, the crewmen, they refused to get in the plane. They had a hard time because they knew they were going on a suicide mission.
Suicide mission, yes.
Until the government decided, well, Well, they put in 25 missions and they can go home.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I saw that movie. That was intense.
Yeah.
That was what it was like for you when you were trying to land your plane.
Yeah.
And speaking of Memphis Belle, naturally, my next question was, did you have a name for your plane?
The Blue Moon. Blue
Blue
Moon.
Moon was the name of yours?
Yeah, we named it that because there was a tavern in Fort Pierce. We'd go to that tavern and get high.
Okay.
So we named it the Blue Moon.
John definitely earned the right to have a little fun before he went off to serve our country overseas. And after all, Blue Moon did see them through 27 successful missions. And maybe even it was Blue Moon who picked that exact perfect landing spot when it veered off between the house and the barn. Well, we played a little guessing game with that one.
And I keep saying, how did that plane know go between that house and the barn?
How did it know? It was the pilot. John shook his head at me with a silent no. It was you. You navigated it. Wrong again. Oh, it was God.
God.
God, the ultimate navigator. Probably played the biggest role in bringing him and his crew home safely. Did your faith help you during the war?
I would say yes.
Yes?
Because I believe in God.
Yes.
I was raised to believe in God. And at that moment, to be honest with you, I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah.
To be honest, I felt safe.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Another question I had for John was about his crew. I was curious whether or not he was able to keep in contact with them after returning home. Unfortunately, John got separated from them while he was in Milan, and he had to fly back home to the States on a different plane, not knowing that would have been the last time he'd ever be with his crew again. When you get the orders that it's over, time to go home, what was that like for you?
I didn't like it one bit.
I mean...
Well, everybody came home together except me.
Really?
The reason the B-25s lacked, the B-25 was a two-engine plane, and they lacked a radio operator. Because when we came home, we came home in groups, 2 in a group or 3 in a group, and we came across the ocean. And they lacked a radio operator, so I was taken off of my crew, and I came home in the B-25 separated from my crew, and I never saw him again.
Really?
Yeah.
You never saw your
Never
crew
saw him
again?
again.
Wow. And last, but certainly not least, I had to ask John if he had any words of wisdom to pass on to future generations. Something that you want to tell to my generation. They call your generation the greatest generation. Why is that? What does that mean to you to be part of the greatest legacy?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I grew up when I grew up.
Yeah.
And I didn't grow up, I didn't have no easy road to hoe.
Right.
Like I said, I left home when I was 15. Well, one of the things, I definitely believe it, never give up, no matter what it is. So things might be hard and difficult, but never give up. I don't.
It's people like John and the senior veteran community that warm our hearts with their adventurous stories and brings joy to anyone who has the privilege of listening to them. They are treasures. And one of the things that I know that I'll treasure from this conversation are John's words of wisdom, which to me echo a fundamental truth that once fueled the beating heart of our nation: tenacity. It's what made them enlist to fight. It's what made them keep going when things got tough. And it's what made them who they are today. The greatest generation. Years after he came home from the war, John ended up connecting with Lieutenant Phil Good, his pilot. Their long-awaited visit would be the last, but their story will live on forever. By telling the story of their lives, they pass along their values and meaning to younger generations and beyond. May we carry the torch of tenacity through to the end of our days, and may we all be inspired by John and the brave crew of the Balloon League. Thank you for making the world a better place.
It's my life.
Yeah, it's a good life.